With this kit comes the bracket, an adjustable pushrod, a pedal bushing, M8 corrosion-resistant nylock nuts, and M8 corrosion-resistant hardware. For installation, you're also going to need a 13mm socket, a 13mm wrench, some Loctite, and then optionally an M8 threaded insert kit. The bracket itself is professionally made, 6061 aluminum, TIG welded, and powder coated with a wrinkle finish. Comparing this to the stock booster, which comes in at about 7 pounds, this is everything attached, the push rod, clutch bracket, everything else. This weighs in at 7 pounds and obviously is bigger. It gets replaced by this, which gives you more room in the engine bay and comes in at 1 pound. But you can see it has the same mounting points. It is a 100% bolt-in replacement. You're also going to reuse the spring and the stock spring cup. Now, we did this outside of the car, but it can be done outside of the car or inside the car. It's up to you. Now, normally, these 4 bolts right here, they're through bolts and nuts. So when you install the bracket, you have a nut going through the front side and a bolt on the back side. Now, what you can do optionally is you can convert these over into studs. Now, the benefit of studs is that when you bolt the bracket in, that you don't have to get a tool on the back side. You could basically just bolt the bracket in, you put nuts on the front side, and then it just is a lot easier to get in and off. Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to get yourself one of these M8 kits. Now, these kits can be picked up on Amazon for like 15 bucks. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the provided drill and you're going to drill out the 4 holes within that pedal box. After that, you will get the tap, it's a special tap that comes with the kit. You tap out those holes, and that'll give you the right threads to put in these metal threaded inserts. Now, when you do this using the provided tool, there's 2 things you want to do. You want to Loctite those into place, and then also using 4 of the bolts provided in the kit, you're going to want to run those bolts in from the back side. I will also suggest that you Loctite those bolts in from the back side as well, because you don't want those spinning loose when you're trying to install. Now, this setup is going to be similar to running a stud in from the front, and you can do that. But what I like about this way of running a bolt in from the backside is now that you have the head of the bolt behind that bracket, so you're not going to be able to rip the threads out. That head of the bolt will always stay in. It's always going to be secure as there's force going away from the bracket. In this next step, we're going to install the brass bushing provided with the kit. This bushing interfaces with the hardware and goes right in the hole in the factory arm. Go ahead and grab the hardware and your clevis. Slide the clevis around the bushing from the back side of the pedal. Then secure it with the provided bolt and nylock nut. Now, when you tighten this down, you don't really have to worry about over-tightening because the bushing is slightly wider than the pedal. So once this is all tightened down, it's still going to be able to move freely, and it's going to have a little bit of play right there that is perfectly fine and normal. At this point, you're going to grab the push rod with the lock nut and go ahead and screw it into the clevis. Don't worry about getting this the exact right length because we are going to adjust it and then lock it down later. Grab the factory spring bucket and from the back side, slide it over the clevis. Once that's tight on there, go ahead and grab your factory spring and slide it through the hole and over the push rod. This can be a little finicky to get it going. Once you get everything lined up, push the bracket on and secure it with the 4 nuts. So for the initial setting of this push rod, go ahead and adjust it so it's just barely sticking out past the surface of the bracket. So the general idea here is that when you bolt the master cylinder in and the pedal is in its resting position, you don't want it pushing out on the master cylinder. You want the master cylinder to mount flush against that bracket. Now obviously you won't be able to do this on the bench. You'll have to do this part in the car so the pedal is against the pedal stop. But you don't want the push rod pushing against the master cylinder when it's bolted down, but you also don't want there being a lot of free play. So you're going to adjust the push rod so it's just barely touching or just almost touching that master cylinder when everything is bolted down. So go ahead and bolt the master cylinder down when you think you got it, and make sure you have just the slightest amount of free play before it actually engages the master cylinder. Installation of the clutch master cylinder is no different than factory. It slides through the bracket right here. It'll interface with the arm with a pin, and then the two nuts and bolts go right here to bolt it onto the bracket. Now when you receive your bracket, you are not going to have a hole in this side of the bracket right here. So some cars will have a bracket on the inside of their fender. If you happen to have this bracket there, then that bracket is going to line up with the flange on your new bracket here. So if you have this and you want to use it, all you're going to do is you're going to bolt the rest of it in the car. You're going to drill through the existing bracket into this, take your stock nut and bolt, and clamp that in. Now, because there is a little bit of variation car to car, there might be some slight differences. So on some cars, this bracket may be a little lower. This is going to want to sit underneath. On some cars, like in this case, the bracket is a little higher, so the brake booster bracket will sit underneath. Either way, it doesn't matter. This just provides additional support here for the pressure of the clutch pushing in and out right here. So if you have it, go ahead and drill that and use your existing nut and bolt. If not, don't worry about it, it doesn't hurt anything. The other option, which is what I did here, is you could drill out the bracket and then put a nutsert in the bracket. That'll just make it easier when you go to bolt this in. You just have to run a bolt in through the top. You don't have to hold the backside with a wrench. And with that, you are done. Don't forget to torque all of the nuts and bolts to spec. You may have to adjust the clutch push rod to make sure that the clutch is engaging properly. If you disconnected the brake lines, don't forget to bleed it. Otherwise, enjoy your new pedal.